Welcome to the very first episode of the Multifamily Investor podcast. I'm Andy Hagens, so excited for this very first episode because on this show, we'll be talking all about how high net worth investors just like you can build generational wealth with passive investments in multifamily real estate. And this show is sponsored by WealthChannel, our parent company. I'm the co-founder of WealthChannel, by the way. And I'm really excited because this is a first for WealthChannel. We've never had a podcast that was exclusively devoted to multifamily real estate. We've never had any of our founders or partners covering this specific sector within real estate, multifamily. I mean, it's an 800-pound gorilla. So I'm excited to be breaking new ground with the first episode of this brand new show. Now, again, we're going to be talking about how high net worth investors can build generational wealth with multifamily real estate. And I want to clarify why high net worth investors isn't this show for everybody? Well, a lot of the strategies that we're talking about and a lot of the funds and products that we're talking about are only available to accredited investors. So when I say high net worth, I'm really talking in a technical sense, I'm talking about an accredited investor. Now, if you're not familiar with what an accredited investor is, basically to simplify it, an accredited investor is a high net worth individual, or to use the technical terms, an individual who earns over $200,000 a year in income or $300,000 together with their spouse, or who has a net worth of over $1 million, excluding the value of their primary residence. And there's a few other ways that you can qualify as an accredited investor. But to invest in a lot of different private equity real estate funds, a lot of the different products and strategies we'll be talking about on this show, those products are only available to accredited investors. So I wanted to get that little disclaimer out of the way, who this show is for, because I think this show is going to be a little different than a lot of the other multifamily podcasts out there. And let's face it, it's a very crowded space. There's a lot of awesome shows out there, but this show is going to be a little bit different. But let me step back and introduce myself a little bit more and talk about how this show will be a little bit different from other multifamily programs. Again, my name is Andy Hagens. I'm the co-founder of WealthChannel. You can learn more about us at wealthchannel.com. We are a media and events company for high net worth investors. We cover alternative investments and all sorts of private real estate strategies and funds. And so as part of my role at WealthChannel, I'm the host of the Alternative Investment Podcast. So that was my first and original podcast. It is still ongoing. I think we're around episode 160 now, so it's been running for quite some time. It's quite popular, if I may say so. It's the #1 alternative investment podcast that reaches RIAs, family offices, and high net worth investors. So we cover this sort of niche little world, but we have a lot of fun doing it. And in the time that I've hosted the Alternative Investment Podcast, I sort of say that I'm an expert in alternative investments. I'm making air quotes if you're just listening to the audio version of this. And the reason I put that in air quotes is, I've learned so much about alternative investments through running the podcast, through managing WealthChannel. I've written a guide about alternative investments, but it's almost impossible to really be an expert in every area of alternative investments because the alternative investment landscape spans, venture capital, private equity, private real estate, and any other stuff like cryptocurrencies, collectibles, hedge funds, all kinds of stuff. So you can't truly be an expert in every area. But one wonderful part about what I get to do by running the podcast, and I get to speak with some of the most connected and honestly, some of the smartest people in finance globally, period. Right? We have C-level executives, CEOs, founders, family office executives on the show. And through this, I've sort of soaked up a lot of the strategies that the smartest and most sophisticated investors are using with alternative investments and especially with real estate. Now, over about 160 episodes so far of the Alternative Investment Podcast, at least half, probably more than half of those have been focused on private real estate because real estate is the largest sector, the largest asset class, I should say, within the alternative investment landscape. And then within real estate, private real estate, multifamily is the biggest sector within real estate. So really, kind of permuting that out, multifamily is an 800-pound gorilla in the world of alternative investments. So that's why I'm so excited, after covering alternative investments, many of the episodes that I've already released with the Alternative Investment Podcast have covered multifamily, but we really felt it was time to debut a show that was exclusively focused on this sector, on this asset class, on this 800-pound gorilla that is multifamily real estate. And another note about me and why I'm the host of the show, why we felt the world needed another multifamily real estate podcast, because again, there's a lot of really good, high quality multifamily real estate podcasts out there already that are doing a great job, that have very unique roles, cover unique topics, and frankly, discuss a lot of topics where the hosts know way more than I'm ever going to know. What makes this show different is that I'm a limited partner, right? I'm a passive investor in different types of alternative investments. I'm a passive investor in private equity real estate funds. I'm a passive investor in multifamily real estate funds. So I'm an LP. If you're a limited partner, whether you're a high net worth individual investor, whether you are a family office, whether you're an institutional investor, whether you're a financial advisor who represents other limited partners as clients, we need to cover this industry from that perspective. In my opinion, we need to bring information. We need to bring questions to asset managers, to executives in the industry from that perspective of the limited partner, right? Because we are funding a lot of the deals. We're funding a lot of the ground up construction. We're funding a lot of the activity in multifamily. And a lot of us are not true experts in multifamily, right? Like when we invest in a private placement offering, when we invest in a private multifamily real estate fund, sure, we do our underwriting, we do our due diligence, we may have advisors who are helping us, but we're not going to be an underwriting expert in the way that, the underwriter, the internal underwriter at a multifamily real estate fund is. So what I like to do, I like to joke almost that I'm not afraid to ask the dumb questions. Right. When I have a fund manager, when I have an asset manager, when I have a sponsor on the show, I'm not afraid to ask the dumb question, because my perspective is, well, look, I'm a limited partner in other funds. And, theoretically, anything anyone shows me, I might theoretically become a limited partner in this fund, right? Because I'm always looking for new opportunities. And if I have that question in my head, in my mind, there's probably a lot of other potential limited partners, financial advisors, other people who have that question too. They might be afraid to ask. I'm not afraid to ask it, right? So most of the episodes on this show, after the first couple episodes, are going to be in an interview format. I'll be interviewing asset managers. I'll be interviewing industry professionals, mainly a lot of C-suite executives. I'll be interviewing family offices, especially smaller independent family offices, or sometimes family offices that become investment sponsors themselves. I love to interview those types. I'll be doing interviews where I'm basically picking the brains of the best and brightest in multifamily, to get their insights on where the market is, where it's heading. But again, always covering it from that perspective of a limited partner, from that perspective of a high net worth investor who wants to be a limited partner and who wants to invest into multifamily passively through these passive vehicles. So on the next episode, I want to zoom out. I want to cover some of the macro stuff, why I find multifamily real estate to be so appealing in terms of its investment thesis, the characteristics of this asset class that I personally love as an accredited investor, as a limited partner. So be sure to stay tuned for that episode. And then for the next few episodes after that, I'm going to do sort of a greatest hits of some of these all-stars from the multifamily world that I've already interviewed, some of this really good content that is kind of in our library. I'm going to republish that here on this show. And then after that, I'm going to start lining up some fresh new guests. We're going to talk about where the market is in 2023, some of the more attractive sectors to be looking at right now, and really all of those strategies that you need as an LP, as a limited partner, to be a successful investor in multifamily real estate. So if you've made it this far, I want to encourage you to go ahead and click that subscribe button, whether you're listening to the show or watching it. The show will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast listening or viewing platform. And I will see you again soon for the next episode.